We're here. It's Tuesday. Um, it's been a couple weeks since I've been here, so thank you for your patience with me. Um, Let me know what you want me to talk about in the next couple weeks. Hi, Steph. Welcome. Let me know if you have any things you want me to chat about today. Because waffles, hello. Because I, as usual, didn't come prepared with a plan, but I always have something to talk about because I talk about this stuff all day long. Congratulations on the thing. Thank you. I appreciate it. Love you too. Appreciate that, waffles. Yeah, I'm just here talking about voice stuff and nervous system stuff, as always, as I love to do so much. And it could be songwriting stuff because now my business is kind of expanding into songwriting coaching as well, which is super fun. If you didn't see my last post, we just had our first cohort of Songwriting Magic, which is kind of like the level 2 to Vocal Magic. They just graduated last week. So that's pretty exciting. We did a whole 6-month journey together, kind of like Vocal Magic is, but for songwriting. We did plenty of vocal stuff too, but it's more of being a songwriter as a vocalist, as a singer, than it is about just straight up songwriting. So we went all the way from the beginning of like how to listen to references, how to just start from an idea, a feeling, how to start from nothing, and then how to turn it into a structure, a chorus, a verse, a bridge, that kind of stuff. And then we went all the way through how to record yourself as a vocalist, how to figure out chord progressions if you don't play an instrument, all the way through recording a whole little demo if that's what you're looking for, how to network with other people who do the thing you can't do so that you have a team of people to play with and create a song from nothing. And all of them created at least one, sometimes 2 songs. So that's pretty exciting. I don't know if I will be doing that again until the spring. So if you're interested, just DM me and get on the wait list now, because I'll probably only do that one once a year, I'm guessing. Vocal Magic has been usually twice a year. Although that's changing as well too. That's going to be changing very soon. Yeah. Anyway, enough about my business. Tell me about what you want to learn about singing. Tell me about things you're struggling with. Tell me about questions you have. I'm here for you, and that's what I do. I show up here most Tuesdays at 6:30 Eastern, and I see what comes to mind from either this week of teaching my students or messages that you have sent me. So I'm gonna dive into some messages that people have sent me in the recent past. Let's see, what's a good one? Whistle, vocal breathing, finding a place in a song. That's a good one. Finding your place in a song, making a song your own, building a powerful voice, adding attitude and style to your singing. This is a great one because this happens to a lot of singers who are in vocal training. They do this thing where they get so focused on the vocal training and like the 1 or 2 things that their voice teacher or their old choir teacher or whoever has asked them to focus on. Usually it's the thing that is the most struggle for them, or the thing that, like, within all the skills, it's the thing that feels like could use a little bit of work to just bring it up to the level of all the other skills. And then we hyper focus on it, right? So we hyper focus on this one skill. Like, for example, some people like get really nerdy about like resonation, like I want every single note to be resonant, and I want every single note to be perfectly ringy in my head, and I want even the low ones, I got to find that space and resonate too. But in normal speech, not every word resonates as we would want it to either. Like, and most songs that we're singing, if you're singing pop songs or even more modern musical theater, like, it doesn't have to be like so classically ringy all the time and exact every time, right? We've gone sometimes too far in the realm of exactness in our intellectualization of singing, and then we forget about the reason why we started singing in the first place. Because you heard an artist sing a song, way back when you were a little kid, probably that was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm mesmerized, right? Something touched me right here. Underneath dagger to the heart moments, right? That's why so many of us want to get into singing. It's not because I want to be the perfect technical singer. I want to do it exact. I want to like, impress the voice scientists. Nobody wants that when they become a singer. We want to touch people's hearts, right? So this finding your place in a song, finding your style and the attitude to put on it is a skill in itself. And a lot of times in vocal training, we forget about that. So, very important to have a voice teacher that will remind you of that often. Most of them do that I've seen on here. They talk about that plenty. But sometimes if we get too in the weeds with the exact talking about anatomy, talking about like I know a lot of vocal teachers that are like we get so nerdy about this that we forget about the emotional part in our own singing. We remind our students to do it all the time, but then we're like, oh, yeah, because I know too much, I have forgotten to think about the emotion in my own song that I'm working on instead of the technical stuff, because that's what I'm hyper focused on all the time for everybody else. So, highly recommend noticing and taking a step back with your singing. Like record yourself singing the song you're singing. If it feels too robotic, too stiff, take a day or two away from it at least. Then I want you to zoom out. Pretend like you are a person who's never heard that song before. Pretend like you are a person who knows nothing about singing. And I know that's really hard to do sometimes, but you have people in your life that are like this. So maybe show it to them and see what the first thing they say is, right? Because non-singers, non-musicians are going to tap into this stuff first. They're not going to tap into, oh, that note was flat, right? They're not going to be like, yeah, I don't think you resonated that note enough. They're going to be like, it sounded like you were bored. They're going to talk about the human stuff because that's what they know as a non-singer, non-musician person. Use those people in your life to get the feedback on this side of the coin. My husband is one of those normies, as we call them, and I'll show him like a song, whether it's like in the first draft stages or in the final production stages, and I know I can count on him to tell me what a normal person would think of this song, because I am way too in the weeds with it. I know way too much about the voice, the technique, my own song, like what I think about it, where I was coming from when I wrote it. And I forget that other people might not get it at first, right? They might not understand the whole idea behind the song. It's not clear, like my words are not gelling, right? And so this is why it's so important to have other people outside of music to show them, because they know how to vibe with music, how to relate to music, but they don't make it. So they're not like hyper focused and too far behind the scenes. So happy to remind you of this if you need. And a lot of times I'm also not the person to give you that feedback. Again, because I'm a voice teacher and I'm a music maker myself, I am also going to give you feedback that comes from that place, that comes from the feedback I've gotten from my mentors who are also voice teachers and music makers. So I may not be the best person to give you that emotional feedback. I like to think I'm good at reminding my students to think about it and like taking myself out of my voice teacher self sometimes, but I can't fully do that because this is who I am. I've been doing music for many decades at this point. I can't unlearn and forget all of that as easy as I think I can. So as much as I can, I try and remind people to go back to what it means to hear a song for the first time, right? And even if you've been working on this song for a long time, see if you can play this game with yourself. Okay, what if I had never heard this song before? What would be the first thing I would think when I hear myself singing it? Okay, it does sound a little stiff in this bit. Okay, maybe that note, I felt like I was reaching for it or something. Or maybe this note needs to be a little quieter, a little more tender. I was overdoing it, over singing it, just for the sake of singing it and the technique, right? The technique sometimes drives a lot of these moments where we just go for a note with everything we got, and maybe the emotional arc of the song doesn't call for that in the moment. Maybe we need to pull back a little bit and make it a little wobbly. That's the other thing, is like the imperfections that we think about as singers who are trying to improve their voice, we get so stuck on doing the technique correctly that we forget about the beauty that is inherently in incorrect technique. And most people don't care. Just being honest. Like, as a person who listens to music, before I started vocal training, before I really like dove into music hardcore, I would just listen to music and I would love those live versions, those moments where the person would be like, oh, sorry, I forgot that word. Or like, ooh, I'm not going to make it up to the full belt today, so I'm going to flip it into my head voice. And I would be like, whoa, that was different than the recording. Cool. Why did they decide to do that? It felt different. It felt emotionally different. It's exciting. It offers you some contrast. It brings you further into the story when you hear those little mistakes, as we call them. So keep yourself in check about being too techniquey and too perfectionist about your technique and your instrument, especially when you are trying to perform it in front of more people than just your voice teacher. That is a thing that we get really stuck on, because if you're here in my community, you're probably a perfectionist, you're probably an overthinker, you're probably an anxious human, and I love you and you're my people and thank you for being here. However, I'm going to tell you something that I need to tell myself all the time. Like, give it up. Stop trying to be a thing that nobody's expecting of you except for you. Stop trying to be perfect. Yes, it is usually a thing that we can't really just give up on a dime. And I realize that. I hear you. But the more you hear that you are good enough before you experience your version of perfection, which, as we all know, never happens. We never get to that point, right? The more you hear, both from other people, your support system, and your own voice in your head, that you are good enough and that your imperfections are not a deal breaker, and that you hitting that wobbly note is not something that's going to make people want to stop listening, that is the stuff that builds you up. That is the stuff that keeps you going. That is the stuff that keeps you creating, even in the face of possible imperfections, right? Imperfections are always possible, even for the most seasoned singer, right? Alicia Keys at the Super Bowl happens to all of us. She's performed on bigger stages more often than most humans in the world. And she still had an imperfect moment. And people still love her. People still listen to her. People still kept listening throughout the whole song. So guess what? Even if you mess up, even if you have an imperfect moment, even if you have a voice crack, a wobble, it's more about the emotion. People want to know that you're still in it more than they want to know that you can sing a song without messing up ever, right? That's not what people look for in their favorite singers. Nobody ever says, oh, my favorite singer is Adele because she never messes up, right? How silly is that to say out loud? My favorite singer is Aretha Franklin because she is exactly on pitch all the time. No, that's not, number one, true, and nobody ever says that ever, because that's not what we look for in our singers. That's not what we look for in our entertainers. We look for relatability. Number one, always and forever. We want to see ourselves mirrored in singers and entertainers and performers. We want to feel like we are not alone. That is the reason why we are so drawn to the singers that we love, why we're so drawn to the actors that we love. We see ourselves in them, and we see our imperfection in them as well. And so when we take that step back and zoom out a little bit, we finally can appreciate our own imperfections. Because if you sing a song and you have one little wobble, you're going to be so used to hating yourself for that and getting into gremlin mode and letting your gremlin drive the bus and be like, hey, remember the time that you messed up once in this song? You better not ever sing that song in front of anybody again. That's what your gremlin does, right? But if we have a practice before this happens, before this performance, if we have a practice of saying, you know what, I am good enough. I am more focused on the emotion and the story that I feel connected to in this song than I am about exact pitch and exact moments when I'm executing my vocal technique. That's what people are going to respond to in the audience, right? They're going to say, oh my God, I loved that song. I just felt like I knew what you were feeling and you were going through, right? They're not going to come up to you after performance and say, wow, it really touched my heart that you hit that high C exactly on pitch. Nobody says that. Like, yeah, they're going to be amazed. And if they are a singer, they're going to be like, wow, I know exactly how hard that is. And that feels good too. I had somebody say that at a performance I did recently. They're like, man, I know how hard that is to do. And I'm like, thank you for getting that. And then I had my husband sitting over here going, I have no idea what he's talking about, but I loved it. So this is the reason why we have to stop ourselves from getting too overwhelmingly intellectual and techniquey about our singing. Because at the end of the day, singing is for expression, right? It's not for perfection. It's not for, exactly executing a code with your fingers or your little teeny muscles in here, right? That's not the goal. The goal is to touch people's hearts. The goal is to share your own feelings. The goal is to say a thing without saying a thing. You know what I mean? Let me know, raise your hand if that resonates with you. So yeah, I think the key to finding yourself in a song, to finding the style that you want to put in a song that really touches people, that makes you feel like you're not just executing a plan, that makes you feel like you're actually singing and telling the story. I think the key to that is, number one, like zooming out, letting yourself see your imperfections, letting other people see what you can do and see what they feel, other non-musicians see what you can do and see what they react to. And number two, you have to become a safe place for your own imperfections, because the imperfections are what we are afraid of and why we're so stiff and not emotional sometimes when we perform. So if you become so safe in yourself to be like, oh yeah, I just messed up, that's fine, I'm not mad at myself, I'm not letting my gremlin take over in this moment, then you become the environment that you wanted in the first place, right? If you come from a singing background that was like hardcore choir teacher, like never let you mess up, that's what you're used to. But now as an adult, you can create your own singing environment and say, you know what, self, you are allowed and safe to mess up. Nobody's going to yell at you or fail you or call you out in front of people if you mess up. You are safe to do that. And the minute that you finally get that and settle into yourself and say, yes, I can mess up, guess what's on the other side of that? Freedom, emotional, to be as emotional as you want, freedom to really express yourself in a song and to go for things that you wouldn't have allowed yourself to go for, bigger notes, runs, changing dynamics more. Like when we're so stiff and scared of imperfections, we don't allow ourselves to do that. So this nervous system work is exactly the stuff behind that as well. I know nervous system work is at the core of everything. I say that all the time. But this is the thing that we forget so often. It's like, okay, how am I talking to myself, right? It doesn't matter what the audience is thinking. I am my own safe space when I'm rehearsing, and I sing to myself way more than I sing in front of everybody else. So I have to be a good audience member and say, wow, I really want you to know that you are safe to mess up in front of me. I just want to hear the emotion. And so if you give yourself that environment, you will feel safer singing and messing up in front of other people. And if you feel safer to mess up, then you will also feel safer to do bigger and better things. And that's usually what happens more. The thing that we are the most afraid of usually doesn't happen if we let go more, you know. We're so in this box of like, especially as perfectionists and anxious people, like we're like, if I let go of control, I will fail. If I let go of my need to be perfect, I will let go too much and I will be off the rails, right? Off the road. And I don't trust myself to do that otherwise. So it's a big lack of trust with yourself. So if we start to build that trust with yourself, honestly, when you do let go of that control, you've done so much good work in the past, you're not going to go off the rails. You're actually going to find those big notes, those big moments of like, I can actually do that. I just had to let go a little more, let go of control a little more, take my hands off of white knuckling the wheel a little more. And I was able to find that full expression, because that's what expression is. You're letting go. You're letting yourself be in the world fully, instead of needing to be a perfect program executor, you know. Adam, thank you for being here. Even as a producer, I get that whole perfectionism thing. Yeah, yes, multiple mixes. You just got to do it again and again and again. It is indeed, yes, our song Out of My Dreams is out on all streaming services, and I will answer your emails today, I promise. Yes, you're 100% correct that we need to give ourselves more grace as performers and musicians to not worry about imperfections in our performances. Yeah, I mean, the first version was pretty great, right? Like, we put it out for a reason because it was pretty great. And then, because we weren't afraid of messing it up, you weren't afraid of messing it up. We were like, let's do it. Let's do another version. And then you made it even better because you were even less afraid of messing with it. And it can only help to say, yeah, I trust myself to do something better next time. You know, how cool is that? Yeah, singing is a little microcosm of everything. And it's so cool to hear that from the producer side, you know. It feels like a different mechanism because you have the time to sit there and tweak things and to mess with plugins and dials and things, but it really is the same strategy. You know, you have to trust yourself and you have to be okay with imperfections, and you have to remind yourself why you love the music that you love. It's not because of the technical accuracy, it's because of that artist's fearlessness to let out their full selves, to open their heart and show us everything they got, you know, safely, and then close it back up and then go about your day. I love that. Thank you for saying that, Adam. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm going to answer your email soon, I promise. I had a very busy weekend. But thank you for being here. I think that's all I have to say. So take care of your creative self, your inner child self, and don't be afraid to be a scientist at the same time as the daredevil. You know, that's what being an artist is all about. It's finding the balance between the two. And it's hard stuff and it takes a long time, but we do it because we love it. Thanks for being here. I'll be here next Tuesday. I promise. Well, I can't promise. You never know. But I hope so. And I'm going to be telling you guys a lot more about how vocal magic is changing in the next couple months. So keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in working with me and you want to be the first ones to hear about it, go grab my warm-ups, or I think the link in there is to grab my warm-ups as well as get on the wait list. But you can also just go buy one of my workshops. You'll be on the list as well, or just DM me and I'll put you on the list. Okay, thank you for being here. I love you so much. Have a lovely Tuesday, and I'll see you soon.